thank you all for your attendance. Thank you for your help, Chris. Welcome to Sin City Programmers. Really happy to have you here. I will announce this is going to be my last session as the host of Sin City Programmers. Perfect, another member. So I'm just going to be giving a little rundown of myself, give a little blurb about myself as I grew as a developer here in Las Vegas. Fun fact, I'm actually leaving town. I got a new role recently, and it's only because of all the progress that I've made. So I'm going to be sharing a little bit about that and some bad habits that I left behind and some good habits that I picked up. Besides that, I'm going to be hosting some group discussions so that everyone in the room can get to know each other a little better. Because a lot of people are just here to meet others, so I'm trying to make that easier. And then we're going to do a little recap and a farewell and call it a day. So I'd like to get started by introducing myself. My name is Gabriel. My job title is software engineer. And usually I've been doing consulting work here in Las Vegas, working with local companies to produce solutions that address unique business needs. So I design things from start to finish and implement them and hand them off to the client as well. As I said, I am leaving, so that's exciting. Welcome, everybody. The discussion is furious out there. So, I used to be a code cowboy. I used to be rough and tough, and I was the fastest guy on this side of the Mississippi. So what changed, right? Well, what really changed is I became not a beginner anymore. Definitely. Thanks, Sharon. So when I started out, I just completed my bootcamp. I was looking for jobs, and I was doing a lot of networking here in Las Vegas to see if I can find any local work to try to just fill in the cracks, get some income through the door, and get paid, really. So when I was starting out, I had this F it, let's do it mentality. Anything that came through the door, any friend that called me, I said, I can definitely help you with your startup. Or anybody that said, I need a software engineer, I said, I am a software engineer. What do you need? And that had some consequences that I'd like to address, of course. But something else that I did is I priced myself according to other people's budgets. And this is a huge pitfall. If anybody here has ever freelanced, you know that you can't just price yourself according to the customer's needs, because you're going to run into a whole bunch of people with budgets that are at like $500 or less, and they just don't know the value that you're bringing to the table. This happened to me a whole bunch when I was starting out, and that really slowed my progress, I'd say. And the third thing is that my work had no time boundaries. So having become a developer, I realized the main difference in work was that I could work all the time. Work never slept. And so that meant I never slept. Because why would I? The business doesn't close at 5. My code editor works just fine after hours. So I'm going to keep using it and not see my family or eat or do things like that. So these are really bad habits because they got me to be really overextended. It honestly brought down my confidence because I was doing a whole bunch of work that was quite difficult, quite large, not getting paid very well, and I had a hard time doing it because I had never done it before. Starting small and getting to be a part of a team would have helped a whole lot more, looking back. But of course, this is just starting out. And what I want this to do is show anyone in the room, one, I would like to relate to all the senior engineers that have been through very similar processes before, and for anyone starting out, just let you know what to avoid. So this is like a Dunning-Kruger curve. And the idea here is that when you just start out, you know nothing, but you're super confident. That was exactly me. But that gets broken down pretty quickly as you found out you don't know a thing. And then over time, you actually get to know what you're talking about until you're the professional that you thought you were in the beginning. So I was here. Welcome, everybody. I hadn't learned to respect the craft just yet, and that really bit me in the ass. So yes, this mentality does not work. So as I started doing more work, larger projects, and working with more people, at this time I realized a couple things. Designing is a separate career entirely for a reason. So if you were at the designing meetup just over there a little bit ago, the previous meetup, that work is completely separate from engineering. And at first, when I was starting out, it seemed so redundant. Why would you spend time designing something when you can just code it and have it ready after it's done? That seems pretty intuitive to me. And then I had clients request for revisions and for alternate features. And I started spending months making revisions when it could have taken me seconds. So this is a massive lesson that I learned to save myself time and my clients money. And it actually also increases their satisfaction. I learned more about testing. So every client meeting, I got this horrible void of anxiety just filling my heart because I was so worried that something was going to mess up right in the client meeting. And it happened. And that's why I worried about it. I worried about it because it was a very realistic worry. And then I rediscovered testing because, of course, it was introduced to me in my boot camp. But, of course, I disregarded it entirely in my own work. But then I learned to fall in love with it again because with testing, I was able to confidently show clients something that I know will work because the tests say it's going to work. So I test now. And I also learned scope creep is absolute murder. So this is a real example that happened for me. I signed up to fix a PDF generator, just something to automate form fills for a particular business. And I ended up building a whole OS for their business that could produce every document they could ever need, keep track of the transactions, and produce reports as well. So going months over budget and having a hard time working out new prices is an easy way to have people that are dissatisfied, go way over your budget, and just waste your time in a big way. So these are 3 things that really started wearing me down coming from here. So super confident. This brought me down to here. What I learned, one of the best things that I brought to the table as an engineer is that I took ownership of everything. So even though the scope grew to unmanageable proportions, if I said I was going to do something, then I just didn't stop until it was done. And that's a good thing for my clients because they got what they paid for at the end of the day. But of course, all the bad things that I just explained still kept happening and it kept weighing down on my life. So the issue truly was that while I did take ownership and that provided some value to my clients, I found that I didn't take enough ownership because those things that I was describing were actually still my fault. So in a way, I was responsible for the scope creep because I didn't set boundaries. I was responsible for being burnt out and overextended because I worked all the time because I wasn't used to this new work schedule. And I said yes to a whole bunch of things that I shouldn't have at the same time. And I was also responsible for the lack of clarity in projects that was causing me to go back and do revisions because I didn't get it right the first time. So the way I fixed it was exactly what the title says. I had to take more ownership in the form of writing SOWs for every project, which I do now. So I don't do undocumented work. When the client inevitably requests something that's out of scope or something brand new you've never heard about, I've learned to smoothly deny it, but the delivery is really important for that one. I've learned my limits. I've learned to deny things that come my way. And I've learned to recognize the things that were just not doing me favors. So here, this is really important, this last one, because the things that weren't working for me, a lot of times were out of my control, and a lot of times they were in my control. So when they were out of my control, I would collaborate with people like my manager to try to figure out a solution that used both of our skills to produce the best outcome possible. But in a lot of places, taking over the processes that used to be delegated, great. Taking over the process that used to be delegated to someone else actually helped me quite a bit. So an example of this was that rather than just take the notes from the client meeting and produce a project from there, that would produce a lack of clarity. So I learned to just have the client meetings myself and extend the discovery process, use more of my time, and take a little bit more of the client's time to save myself a whole lot of work on the back end. And that started fixing all the things that were really taking me down. So me and the clients became a whole lot closer. I built better relationships, even though I didn't consider that my responsibility at first. Through that, I built a whole lot more clarity as well, which allowed me to complete better work for them and satisfy them further as well. And then, while, as an engineer, I was doing a lot of this work solo, and while I wasn't a designer, I produced designs out of the code, and a lot of times those designs were pretty bad. So by learning to just take more ownership over the design, I was able to implement a full design phase where iterations were able to be discussed before development and save everyone some time. So becoming a bigger part of the process I was already entirely a part of really helped in this case. So this is a process that took me like 2 years, I'd say. Because when I started at the beginning, that was me just pretty much taking everyone's word at face value. And I was able to grow this sort of mentality and take more responsibility and really hone my business practices more than my engineering practices slowly to become the person I am today. Well, these things are really important as well. Something else that I wasn't prepared for in the beginning was having a sense of context. So I switched over from being pre-med to doing engineering. And when I did that, I had no idea what I was getting myself into. I just thought, I'll just switch careers, learn the skills, apply for a job, and get the job. It is not that easy. I had no idea, and I didn't know when people would tell me something that was just completely factually incorrect. So social immersion, coming here to Tech Alley, building a friend group, having developer friends, and having developer mentors as well, has been completely game-changing. And honestly, I would suggest even doing that part first before learning any of the technical skills. Due to this aspect entirely, I was able to score 1, gigs here in Las Vegas, and 2, the job that actually I just got offered. And if it weren't for any of that, I wouldn't know what I was talking about in the interview. I wouldn't know what to say to clients, and I wouldn't know what to price my services at or any good practices to follow. So this not only is an accelerator, it's absolutely essential. And luckily, it's something I've been able to change. Now, my mentality is more like, instead of F it, let's do it, I've got this mentality of, sounds cool, let's both take a deeper look. Hop on a meeting, take a slow look at everything. And that, oh my God, it saved me so much time. But it also gets me into a lot of really cool conversations, which is even better. So, wider exposure. 2, I have a greater sense of context now, both technically and professionally, and that comes out of knowing extra people like a lot of you, who introduced me to new technologies, new ways of doing things. I learned what Vim was last week. That was late, but I'm really glad I found out about it. And then professionally too, I know what I should get paid. I know what I can get paid. And I know what I should be doing and the expectations that I should be setting. And I could have learned that given 10 more years, but I was lucky enough not to have to. And then 3, which I think is the most important, is to have confidence in my own boundaries. When I really don't feel like, working until 11 p.m. and then waking up at 6 a.m. and doing it again, it feels unhealthy, and that's enough. Like, I should know what's unhealthy and take care of myself. And that's been one of the biggest night and day shifts as a developer, learning to balance myself professionally and then know my limits technically as well. And then communicating those is more important, because if you don't, people will not draw them for you. So I hope people here can relate to that, or I hope someone learned something new. This is like 2 years of roughing it out here in the freelance landscape, before I head out of here, and this is where I'm at now. I think it's here. If I were to give my own personal opinion, some days, but no, I think this is pretty honest. So that's pretty much me, and what I want to transition into now. First, any questions?
Well, it sounds like when you were getting into the scope creep, you didn't have a good set of requirements or user stories set out at the beginning. Mm-hmm. So everything that came up, when you did your SOW, you would have that set out. They introduced this, and you go, well, this is what we agreed to use. This is sort of what we're going to develop. If you're going to do that, that's outside of this. We can do it, but we need to discuss what that is and figure out scope creep. So are you looking at that when you do the SOWs now, looking at getting a better set of requirements or user stories or whatever you're doing at the beginning?
Definitely. Now, instead of just getting a general sense of what they need, I try to completely outline the things that they want to accomplish with whatever I'm producing for them. Like with this thing, do you want to be able to help customers, or are you just trying to keep track of employees? And then what are you trying to keep track of? Like literally just the business process itself.
And you end them, because if both at the begins when they come in, they can look and say, okay, this is not what we agreed to hire you.
Yes.
So we want you to do it, so we're going to give you some now.
So I actually have I had a very educational experience with a client where every time I showed back up to the table with some new updates, they would say, but this doesn't work for this use case. And that was back when me and my manager were doing calls collaboratively, and I would let him take the lead. But then at a certain point, when I had this realization about taking more ownership, what I started doing is having my own meetings, just alone, one-on-one with the client. And we would just spend an hour talking about his business and no technical stuff whatsoever. When I started having those discussions, the very next time I came back to them, not with more programming updates, but the very next time I came back to them with a schematic of the workflow, we were able to agree right there in that meeting, that's exactly what it's supposed to do.
The end user had one thing in mind, and you took it this, but then when you deliver it, it's like, well, that's not exactly what I had in mind. And you
yes.
know why that's how scope creep happens. So when you come to at the beginning, so you're on the same page. The problem is you guys weren't on the same page a lot of times.
No.
So you were delivering something, and it might have been what they said, but what they said was they were really making this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. And that brings up something else that I think is really important, and that's when you're getting started, a lot of times on your mind, there's this thought of like, how is this supposed to be like? During a sales consultation, should I know all the answers? Should I be the boss? Should I just act super competent and say, yeah, I can do it? And truly, at the end of the day, what I found out was being real is the best way to do everything. And truly, if you have a doubt or confusion, even though it doesn't make sense professionally, you need to ask that question.
Yeah, it's much cheaper at the beginning to get it in. Once you develop it, it costs much higher if you learn.
Right.
So if you did at the beginning, it would have been much cheaper your time and everything else to get those clarified at the beginning.
Yeah.
It takes a little more time at the beginning. In the end, it's a lot more cost effective.
In the beginning, I had more of like a professional brain and then a real brain, and then my real brain would feel anxious even though all the boxes were checked for my professional brain. And then I learned through this journey that having one normal brain is the best, because if you're actually anxious about something, then that means that you did not cover something. So just being true to yourself is a really easy way to not be stressed out about work and have a good night's sleep. And the client too. And the client too.
You're developing what he wanted, not just what he said.
Yes.
What he's saying is not really what he wants. And if you get down to that level of what they really wanted, you don't have that problems getting over. It's like, yeah, this is it, but I really was looking at this.
Yeah.
The intro package, you do a lot of work at the end.
It takes a sharp ear. Any other questions before I move on?
So how are you charging for getting that involved?
At the beginning, it was very just, there was a lot of guessing, honestly. I would look at the project and I would estimate how much work it would be. And one of my biggest flaws was that I estimated how much work it was going to be along the happy path. So I didn't account for the debugging, the errors, and the modifications that had to be made. And those are really optimistic estimates.
So you're doing by the project, not by the hour.
By the project, yes. Exactly. It was just a flat rate per project. And then that paired with a really high sense of ownership is a really easy way to not make a lot of money. So don't do that.
Question, how was your transition from a bootcamp into the technical field as far as like the things that you learned? Do you feel like the things that you learned in the bootcamp like applied immediately as soon as you started finding clients and freelancing? Or did you learn that you had to learn different languages and I kind of steered you differently from what you had learned in the bootcamp? I'm asking because I just finished one.
Oh, for sure.
But I feel like there's so many different languages out there that I feel like I didn't really learn what I needed to learn, you know?
That's huge, but the main thing that a bootcamp will give you is that it'll teach you a language in the first place. And then once you know that, going into another one isn't so much of a big lift. So my first job, a lot of my first jobs, were in PHP. And my bootcamp was just JavaScript and Python and SQL, and that's pretty much it. And HTML, of course. So then I had to learn PHP out of nowhere. But from there, I learned that it's pretty similar to JavaScript. It's just a little bit more object-oriented. And I was able to use that knowledge to do the jobs. So if it weren't for my bootcamp, I would not have been able to do it.
Okay.
You have to think very similarly. But then also, when you are looking for work, learning on the job is everything. And you just won't know. You won't know what to learn.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, don't be afraid of, I mean, this is bad, but don't be afraid of like doing things that you don't know. Just don't do something that you don't entirely, like you don't know at all.
Yeah.
So baby steps. But yeah, you'll learn.
Cool.
Definitely. Anyone else? Very cool. So I want to help everyone get to know each other. So we basically have two groups here. We could basically just have you four talk to each other, and you six kind of split up into two groups. Then I got some questions that I think are just going to prompt some pretty interesting discussion. So the first, I want everyone to get to know like where they came from. When did you find out you were great at coding? Because I'm sure everyone here is great at coding. If you don't already program, why were you interested in coming? And what's your priority to improve right now? So we're only going to do like 10 minutes. Feel free to meet everyone and have a good time. I'm going to start the timer now. Excuse me, everybody. These conversations sound pretty great, and I'm glad that everyone's actually getting to know each other. And you know, if you'd like, continue your conversation. But I have more questions for you. Yeah. So it is just about like the tech industry right now. As you grow, because I'm sure there's a lot of professionals here, is there something that you used to believe that you just don't, now that you've grown up a little bit more as a professional? What's a practice or tool that really made a difference in your career? And what's the biggest career or life realization that just changed the game? Okay, same thing, I'm just gonna set a timer. Enjoy. Excuse me, everybody. Excuse me, everybody. Okay, these were deeper, but there's more. Okay, it's the last set though. It's the last set. This is it. I'm not gonna have everyone hang out forever. So basically, I just want to talk about what things could improve right now, besides yourself, right? Industry-wise. If you could fix one thing about how software is built, what would it be? What topic do you think isn't getting enough attention? Or are there any tech trends that you want to see play out, or that should just stop? Yeah, so that's it. Feel free to hang out. I really want to hear what you guys think about the second one. What tech topic do you think is not getting enough attention? Because everyone's talking about AI, but there's more. There's more to be had. Okay, go for it. Okay. Excuse me, everybody. I have to announce that according to time, or I mean, this is done. We're out of time. Pretty much, yeah. It's over. So before Ryan turns off the recording, how much time do we got?
Just get everything.
For sure.
There's nothing happening.
Let me just say thank you and farewell. We're gonna do an exchange of some ideas right after this, right after recording. But let me just cap it off right here, just for the sake of the video. So thank you everybody for coming. This has been a really successful session, and I really enjoyed that discussion that came out of this. I'm really glad that every one of you showed up and helped me make this a great time. That's a big deal. And then also farewell. This is gonna be the last time you see me for like a year, I think. I'll come back and visit, but who knows? For any questions, comments, compliments, scathing criticisms, or if you just want to kick it, that's my contact info right there. Feel free to scan the QR code for my LinkedIn. And yeah.
You kind of look like Gilbert Perfect too.
Thank you. And that's a wrap.
All right.